think one big thing or a couple things kind of to highlight. So at Time Equities, it seems like through reading Francis's book, which if anyone hasn't read it, certainly should. It's amazing. But there's one thing which to everyone should be the golden rule of real estate of always buying at the right price. And we were chatting a while before, but he harps on that over and over and over again. Like if you buy at the right price, you might have a chance to succeed. If you buy it, too high, you'll kind of never have a chance to succeed. But has that always driven every acquisition deal here, like that being one of the principles of the business?
Listen, this firm is really centered around being a contrarian investor, and part of being contrarian is typically buying cheap and working through problems.
Sure.
And we've always been more centered around the assets that maybe are the less glossier assets, and we've never really been able to compete. In more modern times, we're able to in some ways, but for the shinier assets that are priced at a higher level. So this firm really has been centered around. Francis wrote a speech a number of years ago that I draw from a lot, but it's buy it right. It's your only chance, and it's really centered around the price. And he speaks about it in his book too, The Risk Game, where risk is commensurate with reward, but he centered his philosophy around if you buy something at the perfect price, you really have only one place to go because nothing's ever perfect.
Perfect price being
meaning a higher price, less problems, full stabilization. But it centers the assumptions are centered around nothing going wrong, like it's perfect. And one thing we know for certain, nothing's ever perfect. Yeah. It never goes exactly as you expected. That assumption is they're only as good as you can put on a piece of paper, and so that led to let's buy things more distressed pricing, more value oriented, buy things for a lower price, and then try and solve the problems and create the value. So this firm really has been centered around lower pricing but value creation, and whether it's reposition, management, lease up, a range of different things. Could be forecast on a particular market. If you look back at this company, we went into Canada when it was contrarian. It was actually at a time when there was essentially the discussion of the separatist movement back in the 90s, when they thought Quebec was going to basically separate out of the rest of Canada. So of course the markets went crazy. Banks didn't want to lend, and we had an interesting story about how we bought our first asset. And Bob tells a funny story about he got a call. We bought one of our first assets up there. I think it was 4200 St. Laurent, which is sort of like the Soho area.
Sure.
If you look at it now. But Francis couldn't make the trip up to see the property. He was buying from the Brofman family. And Bob goes up and, tells a story and, about how he said he couldn't believe the guy, basically one of the Brofmans pulled him into a side room and said, "You understand this deal, right?" Bob said, it was a huge 300,000 foot office building, like this building.
Wow.
I think we were all in for under $10 a square foot. So I don't want to, exact numbers, but.
Sure.
And he calls Bob in and he says, "Bob, you understand what's happening here?" Bob didn't want to say the wrong thing. And I remember him saying, "We're buying it really, really cheap." He says, "Yeah, I don't want to hear about there's a scratch on the elevator." And Bob left the meeting, called Francis, and said, "Get out your checkbook." And, it was a high quality building that turned out to be a phenomenal win, but for whatever reason, they didn't want to deal with it. And, so when you buy things on a price per pound, really value oriented, you can make a lot of mistakes, but time typically is on your side. And there's a lot of ways to survive. And so that's really been a fundamental thesis of this company really since I have ever been here. And I think it was different than actually when the days of when Francis was doing the co-op conversion stuff back in the 70s and even the early 80s, because there he was competing with other New York developers who were looking to do the same thing, and they were bidding each other. And I think where he was different is he took the lesson of when it went wrong and applied it. And ever since, we've been value-oriented. And it's a combination of income, stabilization, buying something that you can be patient on, and that sort of leads to the buy and hold.